It's coleslaw, eh?
This is my last supper. Outside the capital, millions are struggling to survive on what they farm, and it's just not enough. Most are dependent on food aid. From tomorrow, I am going to be living like an ordinary Ethiopian villager.
Do you remember? Do you remember how the whole living with thing came about?
Well, yes, I remember when we were thinking after Cry Freetown and Exodus, everyone was saying, what's next? You know, how are we going to up the game and make sure that we tell the African story properly? And we walked into your office and you then threw the question, guys, what's next? What are we going to do? And we were all sitting there and it came from you directly and said, you know what, let's staff Sorious. Let's send him to Ethiopia so he can staff. And, you know, I looked around, looked at everyone, and everyone was like, what's coming up? Where is he leading to? You know,
I said I was joking.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually serious because at the time there was this whole question of a famine film. There was some interest in us really getting to grips with what was behind the cyclical famines, and we had to find a new way of doing that type of story. But I was actually only being sarcastic, and I said so at the time.
Well, clearly, the moment everyone kind of reacted that we're not sure, is this ethically correct? Is this good? Does he really want to do it? You know, so I said to you, I said, I'm going to do it. And I remember you kind of, you know, just looking at me, stepping back and saying, Sorious, no, I didn't mean it. I wasn't serious. I said, no, Ron, it's a brilliant idea. I want to do it.
I'm not sure I can take this anymore. 17 days ago, I weighed 16 and a half stone, and now I weigh about 15. I'm weak and dizzy. I just can't take this any longer.
It's just bread and sand and flies and smell and air and water and nothing else. Well, maybe the wild cabbage. But me? I've had it up to here, man. It's tough. I'm beginning to feel a bit worried that, you know, another day or two without food, I just won't make it. Seriously, guys, you have to bring me something to eat. Otherwise, I'm out.
And then when you were there, this whole new dynamic opened up, which was very surprising. I think it was probably as surprising for you as it was for the rest of us, between the crew and you, because of course the crew weren't starving, they weren't hungry, they were going back every night to a hotel. There was a separation.
Well, the first thing I learned, you know, I quickly learned when we started working on this first film, Living with Hunger in Ethiopia, in that village in Kirkos, was that you quickly form a collaboration between you and the people whose story you want to tell. I think it was just that we are in this together. This was me and them, and the rest of the crew have become others. So on that day that we were having that long walk from the village to go and find some means of making money in the town, I thought, you know, I thought, clearly the crew as well have had that line, you know, they've seen us as others and we've seen them as others. And that was a moment when I kept thinking, they don't care about us. And this is why I would forever live to respect these people, because my first instinct was to have a go at the crew, you know. And this is how I think most people who have not experienced what these people have been going through since they were born would react, you know. It's to look for the enemy or look for somebody that you will just want to blame and have a go at. I straight away remember saying very strong, harsh, nasty things to my crew members that I regretted. But, you know, at the time, I was genuinely angry together with these people. But they were just calm. They just want to get on with it. They just want to get on with their life. They're used to it. They don't have anybody to point fingers. And that was when I realized that it's not all of these guys that just sit there and wait for somebody to come and rescue and save them. You know, they just normal, ordinary people who just want to leave, who don't want to rely on anybody. And this is the moment that they started earning my respect, and I started getting angry and bitter against my crew. I didn't want to have anything to do with them anymore. I saw myself as these people, and they were honest guys who just said, it's your film. And the only way we can make this work is to be hard and tough on you. And thank God, because, that was a hard way to learn, but it helped a great deal for the other series that followed.
This is Adam. I am going to live with Adam and his family for the next 4 weeks so that I can begin to understand the real lives of refugees in our modern world.
I hope we will meet up at some point tomorrow. So you say about 9:10?
And the remarkable thing is that these aren't, there's no big auditions done to find these characters in all these films. And these remarkable characters turn up. I mean, I'm thinking of Adam, for instance, just to name one, but there are so many throughout the whole series. Adam in Living with Refugees, what a remarkable character! What an amazing wife! I mean, and this family was the first family that you at the border between Sudan and Chad. You and the crew were there, and they were the first family that turned up. And their story was remarkable, which I suppose suggests that everybody's story in a place like that is pretty remarkable.
In Africa, there's no shortage of stories of amazing, ordinary people, who under extreme difficulties, who under, terrible circumstances that some of us, have forgotten about, they are there, the heroes are there. The stories are all over the place, and, you don't have to look far and wide. On the day we turned up at the border, it was easy, for us to just go and talk to a few families. Sometimes the only concern that you have, it's about security, really, but not about people who want to tell their stories. Of course, it's a lot difficult now because over the years, there have been questions and concerns by these people whose story you want to tell, because they have always believed that they have been let down by the Western media because they don't get to actually tell their own story. They don't get to see their own story. They believe that they have never had the opportunity to talk for themselves. But they're all over the place. So it was easy to find somebody like Adam, an amazing man. He's incredibly wonderful man. Even when he was going through all this difficulties with the 2 wives and his family to look after, and his mom who's stuck there in Darfur, he was just getting on with life. He never even bothered about asking us to give him money or to look after. He just wanted to get on with his life, and yet you see this man being denied the basics that he deserved because it was given to him. It was meant to be his.
Fatma and some of the other women have begun to chop up the wood they collected. But after all our efforts, we still haven't sold any of the wood. Everyone is hungry, and Adam is angry as well.
شجعن فقط كاركو بانكو أبيجا كارا يكون كديفتا كأكل كولي كترني ولا كبيتو كولي كترني هبيجي كله نيبو يعني قلبو علينا وسموساني عن كله يعني حسب وده إيوي ورا قدام حسب كله ما أواسنجي كان جيم دينير أي دينير بأنا كه كوريني إيري.
What's always been interested in these films is the relationship that we've had with the agencies or NGOs with which we've dealt, often in our pre-production stage, in our researching, and they've helped us and they've guided us and they've shown us the right places to go, and sometimes, giving us even logistical support. And when we actually make these films, not only do we surprise ourselves by what we discover, but we often put those very same agencies that helped us in a somewhat unfortunate position. Like, for instance, in Living with Refugees, how it all worked out with the UNHCR, who had been extremely supportive in making this film. And yet when it came down to what happened when we arrived in the camp, you ended up, well, turning on them and asking them to account, which obviously is what you had to do. But it didn't quite work out the way we all thought it would.
I think people should understand that when we decided to make these films, we knew that it was going to be tough, for us to just go in there and attempt to do it all by ourselves. It's not possible. That's the advantage. That's the one good thing I would love to pass on to people, how we in fact managed to get those amazing access, those contacts, and get the real stories of the real people, without actually having all the problems of security and so on and safety. And in trying to achieve that, we knew that the NGOs will be big players, big or small NGOs. We knew that we needed people like these, if we're going to infiltrate, if we're going to get logistical support, not in terms of them telling us what to say. In fact, we knew from the word go that we should make it clear with the NGOs that no matter whatever support they give us, we're not there to make a promo for them. And that was what happened in Living with Refugees. Within 4 weeks that we were there, it was so clear that there were a lot of things, basic things like even somewhere where refugees would walk straight away and register when they get into camps. It wasn't there. The first port of call, the real aid agency that you have to deal with are your fellow refugees, because they are the ones who start providing for you. They start looking after you, and you stay 3, 4, 5 weeks. And I at least had that I should say power to walk up to these NGOs or these aid agencies and ask questions that people like Adam would have loved to ask. That was the difference. And frankly speaking, I was thinking that, when I challenged the UNHCR, that would be it. It would be serious controversy. They would want to kick us out. I was amazed that, a wonderful guy was sitting there. Eduardo, he basically said, what? In fact, we should have done something like this years ago.
Eduardo and I go to talk to the senior officials along with Adam and Sheikh Daoud. He told us that the Sheikh brought him and they registered him, but he has no bracelet, no ticket.
S'il est sûr qu'il est enregistré.
Non, on n'est pas sûr. C'est pour ça qu'on est là. Si on était sûr, on ne serait pas là. Que vous appeliez votre chef, moi je peux parler avec lui, me présenter.
Because I came with him. I came with him from the border. I came with him and I'm living with him, and that's why I want to know whether he's registered.
Il est enregistré et il aura sa ration comme les autres réfugiés spontanés.
Is it possible for me to see his name so that at least I am assured that he is on that list?
He is saying that at first he said that in order to see the list we had to call the chief. I said fine, we'll call the chief. Then he says the list, we don't have it, it's with care. Now he says we can't show you the list because it's our secret.
I couldn't believe when UNHCR started ordering these films, just to distribute it to their staff so that people can learn from what we learned as well while we were there. It was amazing.
I've come to the town of Mongu in the Western Province to live and work for 1 month in a hospital at the front line of the AIDS epidemic.
When you were making Living with AIDS, it was a difficult film. There you were living with the hospital and the people who were trying to help. And strangely, it worked straight away because of the characters that you met yet again and their stories. And any questions about whether it was going to work or not quickly vanished as we got on with the business of understanding what it was like to be in this hospital. But of course, the most important interview in Living with AIDS is the interview you did with Joshua. And it was a very worrying interview.
Myself, when I finish drinking, I just go for any girl and have sex with her. Direct, I don't use a condom because I enjoy. Because I used when I was young. Be direct, not even putting a condom, I don't worry.
So you do flesh to flesh?
I do flesh to flesh, that's why I believe.
Yeah, even if you do, why not use a condom?
Yeah, because I'm HIV positive.
So why not use a condom?
There is no reason of using a condom. Once I am HIV, I am dying.
So you would prefer to take more people with you?
That's the thing.
Don't you have conscience? Can't you think that you are destroying the world? You are sinking Africa. You're killing more and more innocent people. And those people that you sleep with without condom, they go and sleep with more and more people. Don't you have conscience? Are you crazy? Have you got sisters?
We have.
You have sisters?
Me and having 2 sisters, of course.
You have 2 sisters. What if other men, knowing that they are in your situation, come and sleep with your sisters without protection? How would you feel?
If he is HIV positive
and he didn't tell your sister and sleep with her, how would you feel?
Nothing.
Strong, controversial, difficult interview. And I personally felt there was worried that there was too much weight on this guy's shoulders because he's a young guy, he was drunk, he was telling you honestly what he felt. At the end of the day, he surely can't be expected to carry all the weight and responsibility of that type of behaviour.
When it comes to this whole big interview about Joshua, of course there were a few, very few, and this is our surprise, in fact, really, really few Africans who asked questions. It was Westerners who were worried because to a lot of Africans, we were saying nothing new. You know, people live the life of Joshua. That's the reality. The only difficulty is that people have never quite decided, agreed to stand up and own up. That's the problem that we have. And we know that unless we stand up and own up and look at where we trip rather than looking at where we fail, we're not going to turn the continent around. So it was easy because there were so many Joshuas. We spoke to a lot. I spent quality time with all of them. And then, they were all, they say exactly what Joshua has been saying. So on this day, Joshua basically said exactly what some of them had told me already, nothing new. But at the heat of the moment, I was genuinely angry. The reason why I'm saying this is that I grew up in similar settings like Joshua's. If I was in Joshua's position, I think I would actually say the same thing. And to be honest, that evening when I went home, I actually, in the village, I actually asked myself whether I was even too harsh or too hard on Joshua, because Joshua is saying what, a very high percentage of youth, of teenagers, of young men in Africa and women would have actually said, So I wasn't sure, in fact, whether I wasn't too harsh on him. But, I don't think he was carrying on a massive load on his head, or on his shoulder. No, this is just what, under normal circumstances, even sober young African men who haven't even had a taste of one drop of alcohol will say to you, because that's the reality. I can't say I'm not relieved to be leaving the pain and suffering of Luanika Hospital. In the past 28 days, over 80 people have died here, many of AIDS. Back in the village, I had one last question for Irene. Can you tell me what HIV/AIDS truly means for you?
To me, it means death. As what I've experienced as it now, because a lot of diseases just come. Your body is weak, you can be killed by any disease anytime. I don't know now what will happen to me if both of us now will be the same as the way I am suffering with Felix now. That's the stage who will go first.
Now, a lot of people, they ask this question. It's all very well you suffering in these circumstances, living in these circumstances, but you can go home. And they ask, what does it feel like to leave these people? Because their lives and these conditions continue after you've left. How do you feel about that?
It's always the very tough moment when you're making these films. You know, the moment you in fact going to say goodbye to these people who become like your second family or like your family, because they have shared whatever little, they've been there with you, they've supported you. Excuse me. But for me, clearly the essence about the film is not about me, it's about them. My suffering, you know, people somehow understand how difficult it is for somebody who has not lived in this system, what it means, what real suffering, because through me people actually understand. But again, what stands out in me moaning and complaining in living with hunger, you know, going through all, telling people about the struggle, how tough, how difficult it was. You know, I had my stomach turning most of the time, all sort of difficult tests that I faced. But what do you see? Ordinary people who are kind of used to it, or they have no alternatives, you know, they just get on with it. And that is what, for me, helps people to see that these are real heroes. These are tough people. Under whatever conditions, they still survive. They get on with it. So when you know that, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to leave these people, you're going to go, it's tough. But my job, you know, is about telling stories, about getting people to understand the lives of ordinary people. There are so many issues that needed to be addressed in Africa, and we always, you know, this is something that me and the crew discuss, you know, how we leave these people, whatever little support, you know. But at the same time, the essence is for people to understand that the methods that have been tried to help these people have not worked. You know, the begging bowl, the Western handouts has never worked. And that was the key, that was the essence of this series. You know, so I would go home. Yes, it's tough, it's difficult. I do keep in touch with these people, but the key, the main aim of the film was to get the world to understand how these people are holding their lives together. And, you know, there are some other stories that I have to move on and tell.